20 Recreation Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th Recreation Committee meeting.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Elizabeth Little Hogan is here to talk to us about Crandall Park. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Tom Jarrett has come with me as well, and Tom's member of Crandall Park Beautification as well, our treasurer, and it's nice to have an engineer in your back pocket too for all sorts of help with the project. So we're nearing completion in the courts project, which we've handled with the city. And the grand opening is planned for tomorrow. So that's very exciting, and there's a few things to talk about with that. But in addition, I wanted to, I gave everyone a handout which has 6 points about mini master plan. So in addition to the courts, which are done, we've just signed a proposal for the splash pad, which will be the next thing to go in the park. And that's funded through a grant from Charlie Wood Foundation, in addition to matching grants that we secured from the public. And then the third thing that's going in is the disc golf course. And because of all these things, we embarked in a mini master plan for the park. We're very lucky that we had Tom Jarrett on our committee. We have Norabelle Greenberger and Paul Cummings, both of Chazen. We have Erica Schelke, who's a biologist from Skidmore, and myself, who's just an organizer on the mini master plan committee. So we've met several times and toured the park and come up with some ideas. And I know I've mentioned them before in the last meeting I came to, but I wanted to bring them up to you again. And then in addition, I know it's the mayor's office that has to request the traffic study if you all feel that's the next step for changing any sort of road or signage in the park. So I don't know if you want to, I think it might be best, do you want to ask about the, actually before we start, we could do the fun thing first. I made a video of all the changes, the transformation of the park. So if you guys want to see, do you want to see that first? It's all of 4 minutes. And then when I thank the sponsors, it goes on and on. But you don't need that part. It's so amazing, I think, to see how the court started and where they are now. Has anyone played on them yet?
Tonight, I'm supposed to.
Yeah, okay.
I'll enforce the rules.
Are the baskets up yet?
No,
The back
we
one?
can't do.
I got a first-hand look at that one. We were there.
No basketball yet.
No basketball, Governor, it still hasn't released basketball.
Oh, okay.
So we aren't putting the backboards up because we know that saving
Yeah.
rules does no good. So we're delaying that.
So I don't know where I can put it where you can all see, I'm not sure.
If you hold it on your lap and turn it
Oh,
around.
yeah. Thank you. See, it's so good to have an engineer on. And we have the snow fencing up right now around it, which is, that hydro seed is not taking that, so I don't know. Amy, did you get anybody to go over with water or no?
We're working on that, but they said that the contractor, that's part of the.
Yes, it's part of their job, but still.
Additionally, I have requested.
The new trees that the committee put in have been watered.
Oh, good. Okay. Here we go. Very dramatic music too. Hope you enjoy it. Because that's what it felt like, a race, slow motion. Can you see it well now?
Hmm?
Remember the cracks? That's the first plan. O'Connor Construction was excellent to work with on this. Pat O'Connor himself was over there most of the time supervising. He painted all the lines with another guy. Russ O'Connor was over there supervising, even though he has nothing to do with the company anymore. I got a picture of him in one of these. We thought the snow was bad, but then we realized no work. the city a certain amount of money. So we, because O'Connor wasn't going to use all that money, we were able to keep that money at Crandall Park Beautification, and then we spent that money for additional projects related to this. So we put in the stone dust walkway that you can see at some point in time. The plantings, in addition with Gould landscaping. We took down 2 trees. No one knew that we have to take down. And the nice thing about that is that we don't have to pay prevailing wages because we're a 501c3 and it wasn't government money. So that was able to save the city a little more money. Yeah, that's the stone dust walkway, right? No, maybe not yet. Oh yeah. I edited a lot, believe it or not. It seems like really long.
It was 9 minutes.
Now it's 6 minutes before. But I went over like every day and took pictures, so.
Originally, it was about 2 hours, right?
Could have been. These lights are amazing. So at night, I went over the first night they were up, and because before I think we had 8 or was it more poles up? Might have even been 12 poles. But so this is 6 poles, and you'll see it was at 2,300 watts an hour savings. So it's very significant. The energy savings we're having.
The LED.
So that's the stone dust walkway. So that's from like where the
That'll lead back into the park where the
Right.
playground area is
in our picnic area.
and our picnic area.
That's still not a
Actually-
picnic area yet, but we want it to be.
Eventually, we're hoping to put stairs in from the upper pathway down to the courts to make it very easy to get from one to the other.
So I became a drone pilot during this too. I had to rely on my son originally, but I figured out how to do it. Skateboarders have been pretty serious about going down that sidewalk as we anticipated and trying to jump off onto the kickback or throwback area. Yeah, that was Brian O'Connor, he's the owner. Pat O'Connor is like the supervisor, and he's trying to take over the company, I guess. So, they're almost done. Oh yeah, I happened to catch these folks playing pickleball, and they're amazing. One of them's Crossman's wife's mother. But
I know the ball game.
yeah, they're not young, but they're great. So anyways, and then those are the chess tables. I don't know if you got a chance to see those yet. But, and tennis. Alright. That's basically it. Then it's like a long list of thank yous. Oh, that's that picture. You all saw that picture, right? I think it's beautiful. I got the mountains in the background. Alright. Anyways. So that's that. Do you guys have any questions about that project before we move to the mini master
I
plan?
was just wondering about the lights. Are they motion lights or anything like that, or?
Time.
My
No,
understanding
that's
is that originally they were on till 11. That's
Okay,
what I
you were
was
on till
told.
11 last night.
That's
But I thought they were switching to 10. That's what I've been telling people.
I'm
but
sure that they
Or
were.
9.
we're not.
But then they can't, if they're there, they can go over and get an extra.
The old lights were until 10, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
9 is kind of our city standard for activities.
Huh.
So there's nothing after that? It's shut off
Officially, it
at 9.
closes at 9, right?
The park closes.
Yeah.
Well, the park technically is dawn to dusk, right?
Right.
So this is an exception
Right.
when the lights go on. Oh, I've got in all my material that it was 10. Because that's what I thought it was switching to. And partially because that's what Coles Woods is. I guess I was.
And
I'd
there's
love
no
to-
way to get extra time?
Well, there is.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
asking.
Yeah,
there
they're
isn't
adjustable,
a ordinance that says that lights have to be off. It's just
No,
that
it's not.
that's always been the practice.
So,
But if it follows daylight savings time so that as dark hits earlier, the lights could go off earlier, I think that would be a practical solution for everybody. You know, so in the spring, summer, they could stay on till 11, and in the fall, winter, they could turn off at 10. That wouldn't harm anyone, I don't think. But the people who live across the street at the light are a little concerned about the light fall off. in the.
These lights are designed as cutoffs, so
I
they should be
know.
much better than the old lights.
Right?
But they're taller. They're
Same poles, it's the old poles.
Yeah, same height.
interesting, because they both said to me, the husband and wife have both said to me, that
We'll
this
show 'em the
light
video.
is very, you know, they feel very much more an attraction in the dark.
Really. I'll take a look at it at
So-
night, but they are the same poles that were there. We reused the poles to save money.
Right.
Yeah, so anyway, they're just concerned about being an attractive nuisance later on in the dark,
Okay.
so.
Well, we've got a lot invested, so we're gonna keep an eye on it ourselves to make sure that it's operated and run properly.
I know a lot of people are looking forward to, like, playing pickleball in the evenings too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I would think that 11 would be plenty enough.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But 9 gives me pause.
In the winter?
Not in the winter.
Well, I mean now, like right now. I thought
No.
you just said you were gonna.
9 o'clock is sort of the unwritten rule or written
It
rule.
is, I
It
mean,
is.
when
All of our other
people
poles.
wanna have an event and they come to us and say 10, we say no, 9. So we're just looking for consistency.
But to Elizabeth's point, the lights on, when the lights worked at the old courts, it wasn't 9.
Well, let's keep an eye on it, see how it runs.
Had a separate
It
light.
changed
We'll
over the
revisit
years,
it.
to tell you the truth. It changed over the years. I mean, I've been going there and playing, I haven't done it for the last couple summers, but for probably 45 years. And there was, sometimes it was 9 and there was sometimes it was 10.
Yeah.
But my question is, you would be playing a game and it's, 9 or 10 or whatever the time was, and all of a sudden the lights go off and there's no way to play. Can you go over and turn a knob?
I don't think it would be accessible
No.
to individuals, no, it's not the way we set it up.
And the outlets all have locks
Let's
on
do
them, and the outlets are controlled by a breaker that's in the, field house. Cause that's a new thing, that there's outlets on the poles, that they weren't before. But I don't know that they've all been locked.
If they have the ability to turn it back on, they'd be playing all night.
Right.
Well, no, what it was is a timer. So, and they could play, but what happens is if it's in the middle of a game and it's 9:30, the lights go out, you go over and turn it, it'll give you an extra 15 minutes by turning it. So if you wanna play for an hour, you gotta go over and turn it on 4 times. So usually it's just, I wanna finish this game, these guys, that's what it was like. And then there were people that played, there were people, of course, this is in different, Phoenix and different places like that, Florida. They have those timers so that people, like, they come in later at night, they can do that, so. But, if it's if it's on till 10, I think that
Let's
was.
face it, we're all concerned about, if it's horseplay, we don't want the lights to stay on.
Oh, no,
If it's
no.
controlled play and everybody's being
Well,
good about it, we may be able to reconsider
if
that.
there's, and I don't know, forgive me, if there's some concept for signage, where the rules are painted or whatever, and the hours of operation and the hours of light operation are posted, I don't, people can plan accordingly.
Yeah, and
You don't start, one more game with 3 minutes left to go.
Right.
But, a lot of times, in the fall like this, you're not gonna see it being used that much. When it starts getting cold at night, there might be a few people over there. In the last few years, it hasn't been that way too much, so 10 o'clock would be.
We'll kind of see how it goes.
Even 9, yeah, in the winter time, the only thing you'd be using is. if they
There are
shut
no lights in Jenkinsville, so if there's a lot of pressure to play pickleball in the evening, we'll see it.
I think the
Yeah,
other,
They
no,
were
it's
playing
okay.
last night, they were playing into the dark last night.
But they won't in the winter. I mean, they're not gonna shovel the courts more than likely.
I don't know that we want them to
Some
shovel,
might, but
shovel
They
their
were
courts.
pretty.
Yeah, well, that's the question too. Somebody was over there touching up the paint on the tennis courts already this morning, which I thought was very
Well,
responsible.
O'Connor was finishing up, they had to paint an outlet and,
Right, but people have been playing, I think,
they were allowed to play,
on the pickleball courts, not out on the basketball court.
oh no.
Well,
Right, people have played, I think people have been.
I'm guilty of shoveling
Kids
courts when I
playing
was a kid to play basketball, so it may, you never know what'll happen.
Yeah, you can. We used to do it a lot, but.
Can I raise a point? I think.
You may.
I think we should start with the courts being open till 10, because I think there's a ton of enthusiasm about pickleball right now, and I wouldn't wanna, I'd like to see how it plays out. I also think that the position of the courts, it's very few residential homes that are affected where they are, and additionally, the YMCA parking lot lights are on as well. It's not as though they're then going to be able to watch the sky if those lights are out.
Yeah, I think 10 during the really peak months, just 2 or 3 months a year, and then 9 would be good for the rest of it, you know, I would think.
I agree with you,
Just the standard, yeah, standard.
just because I know right now, and I'm only speaking personally, is that I've been asked to play at 8:30 at night.
Yep.
So if I go over at 8:30, by the time I get there, it's
9
half an
o'clock.
hour.
We were going over at 8:30 tonight, that's funny.
See you there.
After the kids go to bed,
Exactly.
is the idea.
But I do understand, I actually happen to know one of the kids who lives across the street, so I do understand your concern as well.
Yeah.
I do.
So, you know,
He's fun, he's a little boy, he's my son's age, that would, now I get what they're coming from, because, you know, bedtime's at 8, and you got this light, so I do see both sides, but.
Well, if it's a prime
Nine
event,
to 10.
we'll hear about it.
Yeah, sure.
right. Well, I thought 10 was a
Always
nice
do.
compromise. They
I
were
thought
worried
10
last
was-
night because the lights were still on into, you know, they were still on at 11,
Oh,
so,
I think 10 would be great.
Yeah.
So should we talk about the master plan, and should I bring you up to speed with our suggestions, or do? And I also, your second diagram, I kind of showed you where disc golf goes. And these are my guesstimates, yes. But we're very enthusiastic about these disc golf people who are planning the course for free, and then they had 7 volunteers come up, most of them are from Albany. I think I've underestimated how popular disc golf is going to be and how many people are going to come to our
disc
community.
golf is huge.
Just for disc golf, which then, you know, luckily we've been considering this, but it raised it more with our committee that we must really make sure we have parking and signage squared away, so those people are not parking willy-nilly. So anyway, so I think if we address them point by point, it might, do you want a copy? This chair's only 500 years old. I don't know. So point 1 from the mini master plan, and we've talked about this before, is to address the unsafe access from Horicon Avenue. The sidewalk is in, anyone who's walked that Horicon Avenue sidewalk, it's in horrible shape. It's got it's unsafe. And then to remove the non-ADA compliant boundary. And we had also the idea to install a stop sign when you're coming from the park going to Horicon, to help bikers know, or painting the sidewalk to stop, because apparently there's an issue with bikers just shooting through, and then a sign at that intersection, like the bike path has, would be a nice safety addition. So that was item number 1. And people keep complaining to me about that barrier, and apparently there's a woman who was in a a wheelchair, you know, a motorized wheelchair that got stuck there, that one of my committee members witnessed, and I asked her to write into the mayor, and I know she did. But I don't see how we can keep a non-ADA compliant barrier as our park entrance. So our committee would like that removed. Number 2, and Mr. Mender and I have talked about this before, that blind corner. And that's marked number 2, you can see it in orange. So that's the southernmost entrance to the park. Our brain trust of engineers and planners was unable to reach a solution for what's best. Some people think one way, some people say limited one way, some people like bike only. There were a variety of solutions proposed, but every person who has expertise who looked at this road noted the safety concern with it. So I think that would be something excellent if the Transportation Commission, is that what it's called? Council could look at. That would be an excellent thing to look at. That's item number 2. Item number 3, and Tom has raised this with Tom Gerard, DPW, that sand hill that is located, oh, you don't have the set.
It's okay, I'll get Mike's.
Oh, no, I have it memorized. Number 3 is Sand Hill. And Tom, Jared, why don't you tell him how much runoff you saw when you went?
We had some of those heavy storms we had in July. I happened to be going through there purposely, actually, and unbelievable amounts of silt were running into both ponds, more than I ever realized. So I think and I offered to work with Tom to try to come up with some practical solutions on how we limit that. Stabilize the road, because the road is unsafe for bicyclists and it's tough for cars, and the runoff is horrendous during heavy storms. So we're trying to work out some ideas that would be practical to implement.
Well, you get some huge trenches, and then, you didn't have it 10 days ago, and then all of a sudden they're there. Because
Yeah,
of the storm,
it's
you
sand.
didn't expect it.
Every heavy storm it washes, and then DPW's gotta go back in and fill in the ruts, and we might as well try to solve the problem if we can.
There's been discussion of using millings.
As a matter of fact, yes, Tom brought that up, maybe that was discussed by you.
Surplus of millings that might be a potential solution for that.
Yes. And I think that one's in the works. I raised that more just so you're all on board with what our suggestions were. Number 4 is another one I've talked about before, and Tom Jorah, DPW, was in favor of closing down a portion of the road that's in the playground area. So
Right
from
behind the field house.
from right where the new, and if, where the splash pad is going to be, all the way to where the exercise equipment is. It's that very sandy road. People park, there's signs saying no parking, they park anywhere there.
Yep.
And my real concern, obviously concerned about kids, especially, there'll be more running around with the splash pad. But it's also close to where that first hole is for disc golf. And unless we stop people, we think it's bad for a parent to park by a playground. A disc golfer who doesn't have a kid parking by a playground is not even going to be cognizant of what's going on, and I just think it's very dangerous. So,
I see what you're talking about.
and you can see if you flip to your 3rd page, it might show it a tad better.
No, I was just I'm like thinking, where are you talking about? I know exactly what you're
So
talking
the
Interestingly, a lot of exercisers using the exercise equipment park very close there too.
Oh,
They can
yeah.
certainly park somewhere else and walk an extra 100 feet.
I don't park there, but my sister does, and we go there. I'll talk to her.
Parking has been crazy. Those softball people parking right on the sledding hill. I mean, this summer has been just crazy parking in the park, I feel like. But in any event, and then item number 5.
So what are you gonna do with that pathway right here then? Are you gonna shut that off as well? Right here? So it's, how you can make a circle out of it now?
We're still
Well-
debating
It's the
actual
big
rules.
rock stone way that connects the two, right?
Yeah, that one's open. So you'd be able to come in there
Okay.
and then turn around and go out there.
Well, we're still debating rules.
Yeah, but that's, if it happens now without any additional route, that would be, because we also want to make sure we have accessible parking near the splash pad too, for grandparents who bring their kids. So the splash pad is the orange, and that one is blue, and the other one I think it's yellow. And then item number 5 was just that because of disc golf, we think there needs to be some additional signage, probably at the northern entrance to the park, and directing them to use the main parking lot, and some sort of signage directing them where the first hole is and from the 18th hole. So you can see in your second diagram that everything kind of goes to the right, you go around and back. That's kind of how disc golf is going to be played. So the parking lot is a good distance from the first hole and the last hole, but we're going to have to add some signage. And additionally, on that same vein, we were given some information about some nice signs we could put up for advertising. Like apparently if you put a sign at your 16th or 17th hole saying, if you call this number for a pizza, it'll be ready when you're done. Like the beautification committee could sell some ads perhaps on, like if we have a printout of the course or a scoring card and maybe some limited, I don't know if we have to ask this commission for approval of that. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, you'd have to get a sign, you'd have to go through the planning board and get the sign, the building department to get a sign permit. Make sure your signs that we have a code for
Okay.
signs.
I mean, do they have scorecards in disc golf?
Yes, yeah. So we're gonna have to put a big map up, probably at the field house, to kind of pull people from the parking lot to the field house over to the first hole.
There's little ads right on this golf.
Oh, yeah. But that's a good tip, Jane, because I had not been thinking about the fact we'd have to do planning board approval for signs.
Right, or get a variance, just so, yeah.
Because we need 18 signs. you know,
Yeah.
18 holes. I mean, they're small little things. You know, I
You
didn't do
could
that
probably
with,
get a blanket approval for your 18 signs, is what I'm
Okay.
saying, yeah. But,
so Tom, anything you
You
want
get
to
the gist that our main concern is traffic flow, parking, safety, that kind of thing. That's what we think is sort of a high priority first. Then we'll start dealing with some of the amenities to support, you know, picnic tables, benches, things to support some of these amenities. But our big concern overall is traffic and parking right now.
I mean, we would have loved to put more stone dust walkways throughout the park. They're a little expensive though, so if we get more money, you know, that was a priority of people who answered our survey when we did that a few years back at the symphony. The people wanted walkways through.
Plus, we'll see what the real pedestrian traffic flow patterns are, and then we may put formal paths in areas where we
well, and
need to.
there are grants for that. I mean, we're working on the connectivity grant for Coles Woods, so that
Right.
it's accessible year
Yeah.
round, and there are others that would make that, expand that concept, which would be good.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know if this is an appropriate time to introduce the concept of the city's, partnership with the Y. But since you're speaking about parking, and Tom, I know you're sort of involved with the Y project, but, the city is investigating and, you know, a partnership with the Y where we own, the city owns the property that track on the north side of the Y is, and north of that all the way to Glen. And, the Y is looking to expand their operations and also their parking. So, in a situation where if we would get into an agreement for that, the agreement was contingent upon them allowing the people using the splash pad, the new courts, whatever, to utilize that parking as well as the ice rink. But, so year-round, there would be expanded parking, mind you, across Fire Road. But still, that hopefully to take some of the pressure off what we anticipated would be increased demand from their improvements. So,
If that goes the way we want it to, right? then
Yeah.
You know, it'll be a win-win-win for
Yeah.
everybody.
right.
It
But
would
it will
support
take
major,
some of the pressure off of this interior parking issue
Right.
that you're looking at now.
It'll alleviate
and
a lot
provide
of
parking
hockey
for
stuff,
major
too.
events in the
Mhm.
park.
It'll alleviate the hockey programs too.
Well,
Parking
and
lot
that, I
comes
mean,
from.
we have to.
Yeah.
The way that parking is going with the hockey situation now. Fire Road was created literally to be fire access to the other end of town, from the fire station that's over on,
Central, yeah.
and they can't get through with their big truck, in the winter, they can't get through. So we had to have an answer to that, so all that being said, this project should, we know it's going to increase the demand, but we hope to have some alternative situations for the parking.
So our thought is to advance our committee planning a little further and then come back to you again and with a refinement of what our thoughts are.
But also it has to be, city council and the mayor if they make
Right.
to make the request to transportation council, so it has to be, I don't know if it has to go to you, to the mayor, to city council, I don't know what the.
For that step, to use that as a tool,
Right,
yeah.
to ask
good point.
Aaron Frankenfeld, you know, to do the project. But I think it's a worthwhile project because I think traffic is going to increase. And, you know, it's not safe in there.
So is the only ask that blind turn, or are there other asks?
That's the primary one right now, but I don't think I wanna limit it to that.
I was
because
gonna say, so if you can define better what the ask is.
We can do that.
Yeah, that'd be easy. I mean, we have much more elaborate notes. I just brought the basic to show you.
So that comes to you directly, or does it go to the common council directly?
Goes
That request?
to the mayor's office and will
Yeah.
get put on the agenda.
Right.
Okay.
We have another mini master plan meeting in October, so maybe we'll come up with a more defined proposal and get that to you.
So, is there any more parking in the park?
Yes.
Our mini master plan committee had we had an idea for where it could be. Can I see one of
Well,
these?
number one, we want to enhance the existing parking lot, make it more efficient.
I mean, that area.
And then
behind-
additional parking
I hate
as well.
to take the pace away, because people, I wanna say they used to use it for softball, but the parking here, you've got that field that goes up into the Kensington fields, that doesn't necessarily, I don't see a lot of usage out of it, especially the summer, but, you know what I mean? This right here. This
The
little-
driving
Yeah,
range?
exactly.
No.
We do have a number of different ideas.
The
According to
area
what Jane alluded to.
that we had talked about increasing parking in was along Fire Road and closer to the YMCA to maybe do an additional lot
We
there.
cannot. We cannot expand, so
There's that big field.
the Crandall Trust actually controls up to the ice box of the rec,
A couple years ago, like land fields
there.
and.
And so, we can't expand parking into the woods behind rec ice at all.
No, I'm on the other side of the road. I was on our side of the road.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the city owns Crandall Park, correct? It's not Crandall Trust.
The trust owns, the trust has control of the piece that runs behind Kensington Road School's playground and the condominiums over to somewhere, so I can show you. The trust, so,
Here's
Look.
Kensington.
okay, so they own something along this corridor here. They have control over something along this corridor here. It was to try and prevent, I think once Kensington was created, it was to try and make sure there was not a further grab of green space. But we've had trustees monitor trees down, et cetera, et cetera.
I
in
did
their
not
court.
know that. I thought that
Where-
this whole.
where are- You want, just point to her, where,
The corridor that runs behind Kensington, you know, where the playground is and along toward the,
well, here's this, because the school owns over to here.
yep, and this,
Yeah.
we're talking about
Oh,
over
you're
here where
talking
the
about-
playground is.
School owns part of the woods?
Yes.
Up to,
Where,
yeah,
right where one of your holes is, actually the school owns.
yeah.
The
It
school
goes
owns,
into the woods a lot more than one would think.
right to where Jerome, or this little, what is it?
I know the road.
The house, yeah, this, yeah, right in here,
Oh.
they own like that.
Crud. I walked all this with Rich Elmer. I wish you had told me that.
There's,
Probably didn't know.
somewhere there's a map.
I didn't know either.
Rich probably didn't know.
No, it's,
Good.
We've got homework to do.
But that's a big deal though. I've got holes there.
I'm not sure that's a problem, it may or may not be.
no, yeah, I wouldn't think it's a problem, but I just,
But it's a problem in terms of further agreements you have to get into place and make sure that there's, insurance and liability
Yeah.
coverage for further people.
Or
That's
the
all.
time of play especially too, you can't
Right.
play the school hours.
Did the placement of the holes take into consideration the dog path?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't interfere with that at all. It'll improve it. Right now, it's like coming on, you know,
Yeah, I know.
so it'll make it
So-
better, really.
Yeah.
So I guess with this one, the committee had looked at potentially adding a parking lot over on this side.
On Jerome? No, or is that fire?
That's our side of Fire Road. But I don't know that we can really, I don't know how that works with park space and green space in a park, you know? I don't
We'd
know.
have to replace it with other park space.
So I don't think it's super realistic
We
that
already, we had it as a lower priority too.
Right,
and we
yes.
thought
Well, it's
somebody
still
that was-
park space, it's just utilized for parking, it's not like you're
Right.
taking it away from park space.
Right.
So
but aren't we adding park space? If
We can't
do-
be adding, we aren't acquiring any property.
If we do the YMCA deal, aren't we adding park space?
city owns that anyways.
We're exchanging, so we're not
Okay,
gaining.
so,
So
we're still
that's
considering-
a net wash.
okay, we're still considering where the, YMCA is, the track is the park space.
It is indeed. It's,
Okay,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I shouldn't say, not the part that where the current parking lot is, that gravel parking lot, that is not considered park space, but where the track is,
yeah,
that was,
okay.
so.
Well, we got some homework to do.
Well, I'm very glad you brought that up. It's a good time to know it now.
I don't know if it'd be a problem, having two holes there. Where they go.
I don't know either, but it needs to be investigated,
Well,
I guess.
Right.
At least have some sort of agreement with
Right.
You have to,
the
right,
school district,
Right.
something in writing.
yes.
And they actually could like it. You know,
Well,
maybe
there's no,
they
right,
could use it for gym.
right, there's no reason to assume that they wouldn't, but they're pretty careful not to, go off property with their kids. So,
Well, I'll have to get the exact, lines there. Alright. So we're hoping that, it's possible the splash pad could go in the fall, but unlikely. It's more likely it will be the spring. It was so much negotiating to get a price we could afford, the things we want. It was crazy. It was a good thing civil courts were closed. And that's what I spent my COVID negotiating, but anyways. Does anyone have any questions, or?
Will the splash pad require any kind of like lifeguarding
No.
supervision or anything like that?
No, it's got a, drain right in the middle. It's a 35-foot diameter pad, and that pad, will have splash, features located within the middle, 20 feet of the diameter, and then there's like a 5-foot, splash zone.
but it has no depth, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The splash is not bad and it goes to the drain.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just super,
Yes,
just flat.
It
No
never
impounded water.
accumulates.
Yeah. And the other thing is, there will be no electricity out there.
Kids drink that.
throughout. It'll have 11 features. They're all just surface mount. But I think it's gonna be a big hit. And then we're having 2 built-in benches, and then in addition, the installer is putting 5 feet of sod around the outer part with irrigation. So we'll actually have grass in one area of the playground, potentially.
I've heard it.
But that'll help because all that sand going into,
Yeah.
the features would be bad.
Yeah,
So that was another subcommittee, we had a lot of great people working on that too.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Questions?
Great.
Thank
So
you very much.
I do not have to, I wanna clarify, I do not need to change any press release, et cetera, I've done that says 10 PM.
I guess we'll stick with
Okay,
that for
perfect.
now. See how it goes.
Excellent.
Good, thank you for your
Then
time.
we can play tonight.
That's right, that's right.
Thank you for your time.
Did you just think about like a little, not like a long top, but like a little
That's good.
concrete area after the side?
I've been
Kids
needing
like
it for a
leave
long
their
time.
shoes and then so they won't do the grass down. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm actually getting the concrete donated by Joint of Volusia.
Just even another little area, just a little, like, listen, you take your shoes off here, then you walk to it, then you
Well,
walk back here.
I think what'll happen is they'll use that 5 feet of perimeter, the 20 feet, then 5 feet, so 25 feet, and then there's another 10 feet out there. I think they'll use that space. And plus there's benches, 2 built-in benches that are 20 feet long.
That's good.
So parents will sit there.
That's one thing on us, black.
We think picnic tables will be needed around that. Once this thing becomes popular, then
Yeah,
they're gonna wanna
it's gonna be so good.
watch
There
the
might be some
kids and drink
handicap-
with it.
Some handicap accessible parking will be needed too.
We have
Run
the,
around, I think,
no-
before we go home.
no skateboarding, bicycle riding, rollerblading, scooter riding signs on order.
Oh, good.
Rich chose a sort of
Oh, nice.
antique,
Yeah, it looks nice.
I do like that.
so
That's
those
good.
will go on 4 sides of the, court, the cage courts, and then on each side of the,
That's
basketball.
excellent.
Let's hope people honor them.
So I've talked to several skateboarders, and they would like skateboarding.
we always wanted
so-
a skateboard. So.
Yep, and apparently though, I don't know who it was at the last meeting, somebody had overheard some kids they were at the park that day, and they said that one kid was going on to the courts, and then another kid yelled to him, "You gotta stop! Remember, that lady told us, if we don't ruin these courts, she'll try to get us a skateboard park."
Yeah.
So I told them like to find out how much Lake George cost, who the contractor was. I have no idea where such a thing would
Because-
fit.
When we chase them off the courts, they go to the van shell.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, they-
We paid to repaint the van shell. We're
Yeah.
all aware of her. That's better though than the courts. At least it's just
I
plain
saw a
old
bunch of them in there
concrete.
yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's another thought for another day.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna go down the stairways again.
Really, really nice.
Thanks. Hope you all enjoyed them.
Here.
Oh, and the grand opening's great, tomorrow at 1:30. Anyone wants to come?
Yep.
Pretty much the same though. Take care.
Jane, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the YMCA situation?
The YMCA situation is firmer than it was a while ago. But the main piece of this is having the Y acquire a piece of property on Dixon that can connect to our Coles Woods. And that piece has to happen before anything else. So we wait and see how successful they are in accomplishing that. And we'll go forward.
We're kind of on hold right now.
We are indeed.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about that, or?
If we're on hold, no.
Well, but Tim, I mean, like, should they accomplish their goal, we have an understanding. So if you have questions, we should raise them before it, you know.
Now, you're trying to open up more parking on the other side. Does that mean they'll close the door like they were supposed to on the backside?
They are not gonna close the door on the parking that they already have established. But we have closed the door on the idea of any extra other parking back there. They're planning to expand their daycare operation, and they want to create a safe zone for drop off and pick up.
Yeah.
So they're gonna their intention, I believe, and I don't wanna, but I believe it's to reconfigure the parking that's already there, in which case they lose some of that parking. So so they have a greater need to find elsewhere. You know.
Right. But initially, when they put the back part, or the back entrance in.
Understood, I understand all
It wasn't
that.
supposed to be open.
I understand
It
that.
was an agreement, so now,
Right.
can
But
we
it was
get
an
things?
agreement that no one can find a copy of,
Right.
and including the Y, and the Y is under completely different leadership now.
Well,
than
it's
it
called
was.
institutional memory. and they lost
I
it.
trust me, the
And-
mayor shares it with you, so
Okay.
we are not unfamiliar. But I'm not going to tell you that we will be closing that barn door after the cows have gone, but I will tell you that the arrangements, any future arrangements will be very clearly written, signed off, and
Okay.
everyone will have copies,
All right, thank you.
certainly.
I think that's a great idea. Plus Brian seems pretty open to discussion, I mean, at least what he's been here.
He's been a good leader for that Y.
Yeah, Brian's been good too.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, item number 3. It's been expressed to us that there is concern. Apparently there are a couple of organized pickleball organizations,
Leagues.
leagues, and the concern expressed to us is that they will monopolize the courts to the exclusion of other less organized individuals or groups.
Does a group have to have a permit to hold an organized, league on city property?
Ideally,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so they would have to have some kind of permit in order to have use of the, courts all the time, or
Yeah,
at certain times.
Well, we don't have anything like that in place yet. it would be something we'd have to institute.
Right.
And short of those protocols, short of actual competition or league play, there is nothing to keep members of the league from just monopolizing the court without organized play, and that seems to be what the real concern is that they show up and then they never leave.
Right.
Well, in most places where I played, there's a time limit for everybody that plays.
Absolutely, but somebody has to be the keeper of that, and I think what Mike's
We
trying to do is
most-
not be
yeah.
the keeper of that.
No, and most of the people do it themselves, they're pretty good. You know, because you've got pressure from 4 people that are waiting. I've never seen a problem with that, as long as you post clearly everywhere how long.
Right.
Well, exactly, that's why I said signage, I think is
How
key,
long-
right?
Yeah, how long,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta let them know.
I
They're pretty
know
good.
very little about pickleball, in terms of how it's played, what constitutes a game. Is it like tennis where it's,
Yes.
know,
Yeah, it's a lot
There's
like
the
that.
fines,
It's
there's
certain-
the
in terms of
fines.
scorekeeping?
In Florida, they have it posted right out now, in Florida it's a little bit bigger, but
Yeah.
then they have to reserve their times.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I have never come across a situation now, this is again personal experience, where if you go, I've found them to be like a rather open community where they try to
Yeah.
include people.
They do, yeah.
Uh,
And
they're-
everywhere I've been,
They're pretty good about that,
but they gotta make it clear.
right.
You've
I
got
know that the
45
more
minutes.
serious people will go down to a Gavin Park or
Yeah.
or the Big Boom Road where it's a little bit, they can do their own thing, but,
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, what we need to establish is what's a reasonable amount of time.
It's 45 minutes a lot of places where I go. I mean, you can do an hour, but if it's,
You get more players moving through at 45 minutes.
yeah, and you see how crowded it is. I mean, if people will stay if there's nobody there.
Well, sure.
So,
We did it at the Y, it was an open situation, we had 3 hours, now granted it was like from 6 to 9, but in the Y, they can manage it, however,
Right, we're trying to keep the management of it
Yeah,
out of City Hall,
Yeah.
but the place that I go in Maine has a huge green chalkboard. And it's divided from 7 AM to 9 PM into 45-minute slots, and people just sign up.
That's pretty
And
good.
it's the honor system, but it does seem to have some efficacy, and it, once again, keeps it from becoming
So,
a monitoring thing. for the
It's
city.
self-regulating.
Yeah.
Yes.
People sign up for a slot.
Yes,
If they get there and there's people
That's a great idea.
yeah,
playing, they have the option of signing up for the next available slot.
exactly.
That type of thing.
And they get to sit there and go, hello, my time, my
Yeah.
time, but,
Okay,
and people are usually really good about it.
yes, I think so. So,
Okay.
that's.
that makes sense.
Okay.
We all agree on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's a good idea to have a big board to sign, and they have all those,
It
they have the
gives
signs around 45
Some
minutes.
individual responsibility,
Then you just sign your time.
Well, chalk is a lot cheaper than hiring someone to
Exactly.
try to regulate it.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
So,
I'm gonna teach you how to play, and we're gonna get you the whole
And then you'll be over there, yeah.
right? Yes, absolutely, okay. We already did the Y. We have a request from the Park Theater Foundation, Chris Risto. They would like to do a series of concerts, free concerts on Friday nights next July in Crandall Park.
Could I, once again, same constituents who live in the same location as we worry about lights, also have been worried about amplification
Yes,
and the fact that we don't seem to have a standard for if you're gonna have a crowd this size, this is the level of amplification which would be appropriate, since everybody seems to get there and use every amp that they've got, regardless if they have 3 people sitting in the grass. But before, I would just encourage you to consider, some sort of regulations in terms of sound before, because, you don't want to control content, but you would like to control
volume.
distribution.
They're coming to us now to get a general sense of whether we would support it because they're trying to apply for some grant money. So they need to, you know, if it's a dead issue, then they're not gonna waste their time, but in my view, it's probably something we could work with.
Right.
I think it's nice.
7 to 8:30, so it's relatively short, and it's early,
Yeah.
And it's a Friday night.
and it's even before dark, so
Right.
I could understand that.
I mean, we can give general approval and then work out the details as we go on.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
It does.
Yes, it is.
Someone want to put that in the form of a motion?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the Park Theater's request for use of Crandall Park on Friday nights in July.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anybody have any old business they would like to discuss?
What's any news on Murray Street?
Murray Street. Well, the last activity was a discussion slash tutorial by the city engineer with the individuals who want to do this, about all the steps they need to go through, and that's the last we've heard.
Okay.
So I don't know if they realize that there's a lot more to it than they thought and are getting their ducks in a row or are reconsidering, we don't know.
Councilman Bill Collins has assigned himself to the promoters
Okay.
to try and shepherd them through the plan that the city engineer had laid out, just to make sure that if the ball is dropped, it's intentional. So I think that there's at least some connectivity now.
Okay.
Good point.
It's a great plan. That's,
It is a wonderful plan.
you hate to lose it.
Yeah.
But we would want it done in a way that wasn't
Safe.
going to leave the
Safe.
city hanging.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
So that's why we got the city engineer involved and Bill Collins involved.
Okay.
Anything else, old business? Any new business you want to discuss?
All right, now, do we know what's happening? Everything's on hold.
It's exciting to see where things are going, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
The intention, is the intention to continue with skating in the park this winter? Is that, I mean, that's outdoors, I mean, there shouldn't be a prohibition against that, right? I mean, that should be an allowable activity under
Especially
current
outside
COVID.
in the winter.
They
Would
did
be-
the hockey tournament, didn't they?
Inside it might be a problem, but
But
outside.
the outside, I mean, in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going forward, that's, okay, good. Good. Just,
I think we've made the decision, we are putting ice in and trying to extend some trust to the youth hockey folks that they will abide by the state protocol, which is no scrimmages, no competition. All they can do is
Practice for now.
non-contact skills drills.
Right.
Okay.
And we will have skating lessons, as we always
Right.
have. Those groups are pretty small, and the only thing we probably won't have is the open skate because of the,
right, the emphasis being we're trying to follow the protocols that are coming down from the state.
exactly.